Welcome back to the Optimize You podcast, the place where we're helping you optimize looking and feeling your best. If you enjoy the show, be sure to share it with a friend, like, and subscribe. And let's get into today's podcast. Today, when I got up this morning, a lot of things were not in my favor in terms of being able to do my work. I transitioned to be a morning person and get my workout first thing in the morning. But today, having a long day before, getting very little sleep, it was hard to stay in that rhythm and routine, and everything in me just wanted to skip it, didn't want to do it. But I also remembered the benefits that come from working out. Of course, I think we all think of the physical side of things, but for me, the thing that got me to accomplish my workout today was flat out, I know how I'm going to feel when I'm done with the workout, regardless of how it goes. It could go terrible. It could be a shitty workout. But I know the feeling that I'm going to get, and I never regret doing a workout. And so what I told myself was dude, you've never, in all these years, you've never regretted doing a workout, or you've never at least, been like, man, I shouldn't have done that workout. Very rarely, if at all. I don't think ever I've said that to myself. So knowing that, despite not feeling like it, that's what got me to start today, man. I don't know if you've ever felt like that before, or I'm sure you have, and those thoughts have gone through your head, but how do you feel?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So what you're kind of saying is when you're not feeling it, as far as the workout side of things, you had a late night, you had this or that, or you just didn't get great sleep, you woke up tired, whatever it may be, you're drawing on past experiences to be able to get that workout, and you're drawing on the fact that your every part of your being is not feeling like moving. It's not feeling like getting a workout in, or going on a walk, or eating that quality meal that you generally do first thing. And you're looking at, every other time that I've done this and I've managed to push through and get that workout in, or that walk in, or whatever it may be, I was happier, or I was better on the other side of it.
Yeah, I was able to call on it. I was able to reflect and know hey, it's okay. It's normal to feel like this. And I think a lot of people get those feelings. And that's why I think it's good that we're talking about it too, because we've been doing this for years, and it goes to show that we still get those feelings. Anytime I feel myself negotiating or justifying why it's okay not to work out, or slowly sliding into that all or nothing mindset, if man, because here's the things that were going on in my head to justify why I couldn't do my scheduled workout this morning. And I had this little voice on my shoulder. They're always there. They're always you know what? It's better if you just rest, right? You know what? You had a busy day yesterday. It's okay if you take one day off. And then you can silence those voices. And so it's always just this constant battle. I think the further you get in your journey, the better you get at having these conversations and dealing with these voices in your head. When you're just starting out, it's easy just to listen to that one voice. It's easy just to listen to the one that is trying to justify everything, is trying to give you a way out, is trying to give you an easy. We have to remember our bodies are designed for survival. So it's going to find the path of least resistance, the least amount of friction possible, and it's going to say, hey, no, it's okay, just rest today, it's cool, kick your feet up. And then that gradually also becomes a habit, to the point where now you're only performing your workouts on the days that you feel like it, right? On the days that motivation strikes. Yeah. And you and I both know, consistency wise, that ain't going to get it done. If you have lofty or ambitious goals, or you want more for yourself, and you want to see what you're capable of, and you want to live a different lifestyle, and you want to look good, and you want to feel good, well, it's going to take a certain amount of consistency, which means you're going to have to do things when you don't feel like it. So this morning was a battle of, okay, I have the voices on this shoulder, but let me turn up the volume on the other voice over here. And for me, that was consciously thinking of, well, let's reflect in the past. What have you done? Well, you've never regretted a workout. Well, even if you go into this one less than ideal or less than optimal circumstances, even if here's a trick I have my clients do too, is hey, just run a clock for 10 minutes. I don't care, good, bad, ugly. When your 10-minute clock goes off and you've started your workout, however far you got, you can make that decision, and you can go, hey, you can call it for a day, but at least you got 10 minutes in, and just build that callus of showing up for yourself. And you'd be surprised what that'll do. But I didn't have to do that today. That's kind of an eject button for me. That's a little cheat code that I use, and my clients use as well. But I didn't have to use that 10-minute timer today. I just more so focused on okay, how am I going to feel when I'm done with this? I know how I'm going to feel. Let me embrace that moment. That's my low hanging fruit for today. That's what I want to look forward to. That's the version of me that the most badass version of myself. What did he do when he was in this scenario? What are his characteristics? What were his thought processes? Well, he didn't spend too much time whether he felt like doing it or not. He just showed up. He started going through the first initial movements, getting the body warm, getting some lighter sets in, building up to his first working set. Before you know it, he was into his workout, right? Boom. I'm like, okay, I'd rather adopt those characteristics than this little voice and listen to this voice over here that's justifying like, hey man, it's okay just to take today off. It's okay just to kick your feet up. Not that that's a bad thing, and rest is phenomenal, but I know me and how quickly that snowballs the opposite direction. So for me, those are kind of the conversations that I was having in my head today, and I got through it. Felt amazing after. Again, had zero regrets, and had some fun doing it, man, and got some clarity. By the way, leading into that too, you might be able to speak to this as well, dude. I was dragging ass. I was exhausted. I was tired. I was sleepy. Like, man, I don't want to do this. Nothing in me wants to do this. And after, I felt alert. I felt like on this emotional high. I felt accomplished. I was like, damn, that's why we do that. That's why I get to do this. And it was a simple reminder. And you're like, it puts things into perspective. And now that's a little token in the back of my head for next time I feel like this. Like, hey, remember last time you didn't feel like doing it? Lean back on that.
I love that, dude. And I love the whole 10-minute timer thing too. I think a lot of our listeners can really draw on that, because I know for me, and I know I'm sure for you and plenty of people out there listening to this, you have those days where you lose momentum in that, right? You start, maybe you've been good for a while, and now for the last few weeks you've been listening to that voice that's kind of telling you to give in, and you can take the day off, and you'll be able to get a workout in tomorrow. Just move it there. Like, it's cool. You don't feel good. Like, you deserve this day off. You've been doing this or that, whatever it is. Oh, like, eat this, like, instead of this, like, this meal that you have prepped, or, oh, you know what? Like, let's order out, or let's go grab this, like, some donuts, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like that voice, especially I find for me, that voice is super loud when I'm not getting good sleep. When maybe I had a late night, or I'm just sleep deprived, like for some reason I'm just not sleeping good, then that voice is super high in the whole, like, oh, you can skip the workout today. Oh, I know, like, what really sounds good when you're not feeling great, or when you're sleep deprived, is sugary foods, right? And so it's like, it's so much easier to turn those things down. But what I found too within those days is the same thing where you said the 10-minute timer. I've always just tried to get something in. It's like, you know what? Even if, like, I just get like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats in. Like, that's like it, then maybe I've had that happen too, where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to get this in, and I end up doing more. Or, you know what, I'm going to just start with, like, getting I'm just going to get like a few 2 supersets in, and I end up doing like 4, right? Or something like that. You just kind of, it's like you build that momentum. But also, I've found with meals, like, that is huge, where if you start the day off and you start off on, like, waffles, it's like your first thing is waffles, or it's donuts, or it's something sugary, or, whatever it may be, like, then it's so much harder to make better choices the rest of the day. Whereas, like, if I start out with, like, a yogurt bowl, like a nice yogurt bowl with fruit and, like, protein powder and chia seeds and, like, a nut butter, and, like, whatever it may be, like, I have a good quality, solid, high protein meal, then the choices after that for food are easier. But also the choices after that, as far as, like, habits, are a lot easier too. It's like building that momentum in the right direction, and just starting with, getting that, for, like, making it a priority to get some protein in that first meal, making it a priority to just do something for exercise. Or maybe you're like, you know what, I'm going to go on a walk today. Like, I'm going to make it my goal to just get on a quick early morning walk, and then, like, get something in for a workout. Like, it's getting some of these habits rolling, I think is huge. And you got any other tips? I know you're a tip machine when it comes to just about everything. Like, what, like, for those of our listeners who really struggle to build that momentum, anything else that you'd recommend for them
Yeah, I
to
think
get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think it's like a skill, right? So this just like anything is a skill that has to be built. So you mentioned some really good things. I think, and the skill that I'm talking about really is self-awareness. So today, I'll give you an example. When I shared my story, I gave you the example of all the limiting beliefs, all the reasons as to why I shouldn't work out, or to justify why I didn't have to. Um, And the skill in that is being self-aware when you start hearing those voices, when you start hearing those those justifications coming up of like, for me, and you know, it in my mind, it screams mediocrity, which is something that I don't want to be, right? Nothing about me wants to be of that. So when I hear, for me, that's like, that's my anti-Matt in there, right? Like that's my soft Matt speaking, saying like, hey, it's okay, man. Just kick your feet up. Like, it's my mediocre Matt. It's like what I like to call it. And so for me, I hear those and go, oh, no, no, no. Like, I hear you. I get it. I understand, but I want more from myself. And I think that's really important too, is like being able to take that step back and being self-aware and going, okay, what standard have you set for yourself? Because if you haven't set a standard, when you hear those voices, that softer version of you, the way that the one that's looking for a way out, like 9 times out of 10, you're going to listen to them because you don't have a standard set for yourself. So that's like first and foremost, set the standard. Like, what do you want? Like, if we're talking to people and their standards very low for themselves, they're going to listen to that voice 9 times out of 10, and they'll probably be okay with it. They'll probably be like, hey, you know what? I didn't do my workout today, which then led to me eating like shit, which then led to me not taking care of myself, which then led me to, being a part of everybody else's plan with zero intentionality. And I've slid down the slippery slope, and I'm fine with it. And if they're okay, then I'm personally not talking to those people. But I know if somebody's like, hey, I want more for myself, I know I'm capable, I want to feel good, I want to look good, I want to feel amazing, because everybody's going to have those thoughts. So I think the skill is, can you hear yourself or that voice in your head when they're saying these limiting thoughts, these trying to find a way out? And then do you have the ability to become aware of them? Go like, oh man, this is what they're talking about. Those are those thoughts that are coming up of trying to find the easy way out. And then the next part of the skill is not only, I think the self-awareness piece is huge. So see if you can recognize that voice when it comes up first, number one. Number two, can you counteract it? Can you go, okay, what the version of me that I'm working towards and that I feel like I'm capable of, and I want to step into the best version of me, what were their characteristics in this scenario? What did they do? Like, maybe it's something as simple as like what you said, like, man, I just want to do a couple sets. I want to just do something. Instead of me eating my first shitty meal and being gluttonous, like super heavy, maybe I'm going to start off with that yogurt bowl that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it'll make a difference, but you and I both know when you do something just small like that, that's like the first stepping stone that you need. And something beautiful that it does, it pulls you out of this all or nothing mindset. I think people get so much into this. I just had a client right now that I was talking to, that she had a huge epiphany. She had a huge realization. She had a shoulder tweak. And her first thing to me was like, man, this sucks. The chiropractor says I need to take time off. And workouts are everything to me. This is going to kill me not being able to work out. Mind you, she's got a shoulder problem. So I'm like, okay, cool. Totally get it. Totally agree. You should rest the shoulder. It's probably going to be the best thing that you possibly need. However, on today's workout, I sent her a screenshot and I circled 3 or 4 movements that had nothing to do with her shoulder. And I was like, why don't we give these a try today? Right. And I think too many people are immediately quick to write themselves off from not all the things that they can't do, like focusing on all the like, oh, I can't do this, so I'm going to write my complete workout off, knowing that there's gold and there's degrees in there to which you can and cannot do. So that's a huge thing that I have my clients focus on. And I try to encourage myself as well, is to, what can you do? Like, what are you able to do right now? What are you maybe even taking for granted that, if you were in somebody else's position, they would kill to be in your shoes to be able to do what you can do physically right now. And it's that self-awareness piece. So I would encourage people to be super hyper aware of when that voice starts speaking, that limiting voice. And B, if you do hold a higher standard to yourself, what's the smallest amount that you can do? It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to go setting PRs for your workout. You don't have to eat super clean chicken breast and broccoli for every single meal. But what's that first step that you can do? Is it setting 10 minutes on a timer for a workout? Is it doing a couple sets, like you said, just doing something small? Is it doing the yogurt meal for breakfast? Like, those seem like small steps, but I promise you, I love the saying, like, find 100 gold BBs versus the 1 silver bullet, right? Like, that's what it is. Like, so what gold BBs can you find that are going to be stepping stones that in turn are a trickle effect? But I think it all starts with the self-awareness. Like, where are you at mentally? Can you hear yourself when you're saying those limiting thoughts, those limiting beliefs? Or are you just going through the motions? Are you just going, oh, well, yeah, maybe I should take some rest today, right? And again, if you're not holding that standard for yourself, 9 times out of 10, you will give into that. You will be like, yeah, it's cool. And you probably won't have a problem with it. So that's why I say it's like there's two different crowds here. I think there's a crowd that's like they're okay with sliding down and being mediocre in certain areas, and they don't mind if they don't put in the amount of consistency that's required to see what they're capable of and live out the best version of them. That's fine. But if people want more from themselves, I highly encourage them to develop that skill of be self-aware. And then what's that first stepping stone? I don't care how small it is that you can do to get your body moving in the right direction. That in turn will be a trickle effect, and you'll catch momentum and keep going.
Dude, that's huge. And I think like that self-awareness is best skill anybody could have, like you said. Like just so beneficial in every area of your life. Finding your patterns. Once you find those patterns, you can really start to change them, rewrite the narrative. Underappreciated, because I think there's just so many people that are just sleepwalking through life doing the same things over and over again. They don't even see it, right? It almost takes like stepping out of your own shoes, looking at your day, maybe like re-looking at what you did that day. I know I use it in a lot of different things. Like I know me and you are the same. We're always trying to get better in all the different areas of our life. And that self-awareness piece of just catching yourself making like certain mistakes and trying to figure out a solution to not make those mistakes again is huge. On top of that, what would you say? You talked about self-awareness. You talked about kind of being able to just just find a way to like change the behavior, right? From to one that actually is going to be beneficial and move you forward. What do you think? How much do you think it plays in, or how helpful is it like for somebody to have something like above themselves or more important than themselves to help push them towards that? Because that's something that popped in my head when you were talking, is like those are really, really good. But I think there's some people out there that are probably thinking like, yeah, I know, I'm aware, I know I'm doing this thing, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why I can't change the behaviors. And what I've personally found is like having something really big driving a huge why is huge. So I'd love for you to talk on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the why, and I like the even an additional description to it for me would be the want or the desire. Because if without that, like I said, you're going to be completely fine with just being like, oh yeah, I should just kick my feet up today. And I'm not saying, again, this isn't like a binary statement of anytime this voice comes up, you need to bash it and address it immediately, and you need to do the exact opposite. There are going to be certain scenarios where you do have to listen to it and listen to your body and be smart. Maybe rest is the answer. However, like we talked about, that self-awareness of recognizing and deciphering the difference between the two. Am I making an excuse for myself and trying to find an easy way out right now? Or am I truly exhausted more than I normally am, and rest is actually going to be the best piece for me to do right now? It's like, again, it's a level of self-awareness. So if somebody is hearing those voices, they're hearing those limiting beliefs, and they constantly, they identify somebody who constantly gives into them, and then they're frustrated because they're like, man, I know I'm capable of more. Like, why do I keep listening to this limiting voice? Why do I keep finding the easy way out? And they're frustrated and they feel like they're tug of war back and forth. Like, those are the people that I'm talking to. But if people are okay with just being like, I just want to, I can totally take a rest day today, and there's no regret and there's no guilt involved with it at all whatsoever. Great. Like, I can't force you to want something, but for those people that actually truly hold something either higher than themselves, they've established this goal. It's very lofty. It's either bigger than them, or even if it's not bigger than them, it's something that they're attracted to. They're almost, what's the word? Like, it's like to a level of like lust. Like if you think of like a relationship where you're like, oh man, I'm crazy over somebody. Like I have that kind of attraction to somebody. You can have that kind of attraction to the thing that you want as well. Like your desires, your true wants. And when you have that kind of almost like magnetic attraction, it makes your decision making and your filtering with these things, these little, speed bumps that come up during your process. Because I think people are like, once I reach a certain level in my health and fitness, like I won't have those thoughts anymore. And like we all have them, like they don't go away. You just get better at handling them, right? Like I think that's really important to decipher. Is I think people have this misconception of like, oh, since you've been doing this for so long, like you don't have those thoughts, or it must be easier for you. And I'm just like, it is, because I've done so many repetitions. So I've developed the skill over and over. But I'd be lying if I say those thoughts don't come into my head all the time. Like they're definitely there. I think it's your ability to handle them and deal with them. And if your goal is to get better at that skill and develop that skill, get better at quieting those limiting voices and needs, I think it all starts with exactly what you said. What's your want? What's your why? What's your desire? What's the thing that it might be something that's bigger than you? Oftentimes that's huge, right? Like if it's bigger
Yeah.
than just you, the individual, like, you know, inward, right? It could be something very massive where you're like, I know if I do this, I can impact so many lives. Or it's, beyond me. If it's something beyond me and that really lights a fire in you, maybe that's what it is. And a lot of times it can be. But harnessing that thing and having ultimate clarity, we've talked about it before too, like the North Star, right? Like whatever that is, I promise you have a lot easier time silencing that limiting belief, that negotiating voice that sits there on your shoulder, because they're always there. It's just, do you want to get better at talking to them and silencing them down and turning the volume up on the other perspective? Or do you just want to keep listening to the limiting voice and you really don't have a strong enough want, desire, why, or anything bigger than you? And you're okay. You're complacent with going through the motions, right? So you got to understand, if you keep falling on your face and you're frustrated and you're like, I want more from myself, I know I'm capable of more, and you're stuck in that area, that's where I'm highly recommending, like, figure out what that why is. Like, spend some time in silence, like turn your phone off, get away from electronics, get away from distractions, be in a quiet place and like let your brain go there. And you'll start to get some answers. You'll start to get some clarity. Like, oh, that's why I want that. I want to do, for a lot of my clients, it's doing something. They want to look good and feel good, of course. But sometimes that bigger thing is like, dang, I want my spouse to look at me a different way. Like I want them to be attracted to me again. I haven't felt that in the last 10, 15 years, right? Like, so that's their thing they're harnessing on to. Or maybe for some parents, it's like, I want to have energy to be able to have, longevity with my kids. Like that's the most important thing to me. The pace that when I'm going right now, I'm not going to be able to show, I'm not going to make it to my kid's wedding day. Like those are the things that are bigger than them. I think you're talking about too. So when you have something like that, that's a lot different than like, oh man, I got a cruise coming up in 6 weeks. I want to look jacked for it when I take my shirt off and I want to look good. That's cool. The chances of you giving into that, oh yeah, you don't got to work out today. Oh, yeah, you can eat some shit today. Like it's going to be a lot higher. Right. But if you have that thing and you can harness it and you actually want better from yourself, man, I think that's how you set yourself up on that track, man. What about you? You got any tips or tricks or advice for people who are kind of in that boat? Let's just assume that they want better from themselves, but they just keep falling on their face. They're like, man, I justify with myself, or I negotiate with myself all the time, and I just skip my workouts, or I find myself binging and eating like shit all the time when I know I can do better. Is there anything, advice that you'd give to people in that scenario?
Dude, I mean, I think you kind of nailed a lot of it. I think starting with what you really want. We've talked about this many times, but I think it's so common, and I know I've done it many times where you're going at stuff that you don't really want, right? And it's going to be really really difficult to push past the obstacles when that's going on.
Yep.
Also, the why behind it has to be huge. That's why I think it is so beneficial to have it be outside of yourself, and it doesn't have to be there could be other reasons that just push somebody like so hard that allow them to not give in to these temptations and these things that they normally would. But I think, having people around you that you're doing things for can be really, really helpful. I know me and you talked a while back about dating when we were dating, and like it was just such a huge drive to stay in shape
Yeah.
because like that was like like we wanted to be
Yeah.
ripped. We wanted to really be like the best version of ourselves. And so I'm so easy to not eat this or to get your workout in every single day and like crush it, like no matter how you feel when you have this huge thing. And so it's like, if somebody doesn't have that, just like Matt said, do some exploring, right? But then on top of that, like keep it simple. I think
Yep.
it's so easy to think you have to do all these different things, and that's why we always preach like simplicity. Matt, you preach start sloppy, just start somewhere, right? If you're struggling maybe just simplify a little bit. Try to focus on maybe just 2 things that you can do every day. And then you're not overwhelmed trying to do 5, 10, 15 habits that like you saw somebody on Instagram or YouTube doing that it's easy to do all that stuff. So I would say like those, the self-awareness thing's great. But those are just some things that popped in, just kind of expanding on your the why, the goals, finding something that's meaningful, having self-awareness as to like your normal patterns, keeping it simple, really focusing on 2 to 3 daily habits that can move you forward as opposed to 5, 10, 15. And then just like you always say, dude, start fucking sloppy. Just get moving, do something. Even if it's one thing a day, just do one thing a day. You don't have to do a million workouts. Like just do one a week. Like it's like a lot of times like these things are so hard to stick with because it's just on the standards that people have, or not necessarily the standards, but the things that people think they need to do to be successful are so outside of what you actually do need to be successful, or what you actually do need to maintain what you have, or what you actually do need to move forward a little bit. And so that's kind of how I would kind of wrap it up on my end as far as like this topic. But anything else you got to just like kind of put a bow on this episode and give some people some extra feedback or help?
I think that's it, man. I think you nailed it. The simplicity part is really, really key. We gave and hinted to some things throughout our conversation here, and some of which being like, okay, set a timer for 10 minutes. That's the cheat code. You mentioned having the simple breakfast that's going to be filled with protein to start the day off. Like, I think some people think it has to be perfect. It has to be elaborate. You have to have grocery shopped. You have to have the gym membership. Like, and those, again, that's that voice again trying to justify to give you an easy way out. So that's another version of it. It's not always going to be so blatant in black and white. Like sometimes it'll be very subtle, and it's the thing that's going to basically try to give you the cop out, give you the easy way out. And so really flexing that self-awareness, I think you hit it on the head with simplicity. We gave some simple examples, but everybody will find their own little nuanced ways. And again, one of the sayings that we love is simple scales, fancy fails. And so if you want, the whole game is about being repetitive, being consistent. Like you have to do a certain amount of repetitions. There has to be a certain amount of volume. What do they say? Repetition is the mother of skill, right? Like, so in order to build that skill, you have to have extremely high amount of volume. Well, how do we do that? Well, we got to strip it down so basic and so simple that it's repeatable on a day in and day out basis, regardless of how I feel. So take some steps back. I think people are like, oh, that's not going to do anything because it's so simple. And it's so, yes, when you're thinking those thoughts, that's exactly what you should start on. Like I've heard one too. I think it's in Atomic Habits, where like before you start running, like just put your shoes and your workout clothes like right by your bed, right by the door when you get up in the first morning. Like don't even do the workout yet. Like just put them there. Just prep first. Like so small. Like you should think of steps that feel like so stupid at first. You're like, there ain't no way like that. That's not even doing the workout. Let's just get my clothes ready. Exactly. Are you doing it yet? And if the answer is no, then okay, there's your first step. It's got to sound so stupid and so easy. And I promise you it'll be a trickle effect. And then you can start building off it. It gets really cool. You'll catch momentum.
I love it, dude. Well, good shit. Well, hey, everybody, hope that this was a helpful episode for you. As always, make sure you like, subscribe if you aren't. But more importantly, if you do enjoy this episode, you think somebody could benefit from it, all we ask is you share it. Send it over to somebody else. Copy. There's the share button. Send it to a coworker, friend, family member, somebody who you think could benefit from this. We really appreciate you. We hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we'll be talking to you soon.